Doing great. We've seen an explosive performance from Polaris Esports just a while ago up against Motivate Trust, dominating in first and second games. Boom Esports did the same thing to Motivate Trust, and they're sending a message. We know Gary, their CEO, has been very vocal about how he feels where they are in the DPC, so I think the team is out to prove a point. We'll see how they hold up against Polaris, who has been on a major hot streak, and we do have a great draft opening already, Mike. Polaris, they take the Snapfire first pick. They had first pick, snag up the Snapfire. Very open for Polaris. Again, recalling Lelouch, recalling Mac, I don't believe he was one of the players that ran a lot of mid Snapfire when it was the hot stuff, but he just dealt with a mid Snapfire himself in the last game. He knows what to expect as someone playing against it, and I think that also means that he should know how to play it if he wants to play it mid. Very open for Polaris there. They get the Undying as well, likely our Mavis hero on the 5, and we have seen the Undying provide so much sustain, so much team fight presence as well for the teams that did prioritize it. We haven't seen much of it in the past few days, but in the group stage, that Undying was key to a lot of teams in winning out early on. So great opening from Polaris already, Mike. Boom. Start steady. Nyx Assassin, Enchantress coming through. Nyx to cancel off the Snapfire Kisses with a Spike Carapace. A very easy way to ensure that spell's not going to do too much work. And the Enchantress, of course, we've seen Tims specialize on that pause for Enchantress, just being a massive nuisance. The opposing team blocking off camps, taking a large creep, harassing out on lane quite hard. We'll see if Polaris will be ready to play against that, but if it is a Snapfire Undying support duo, they don't have an easy way to kill off that enchanted creep.
I mean, going back to what you said earlier as well, John, I mean, you talked about Boom Esports being a lower division team and having something to prove. Correct me if I'm wrong, aren't Polaris not even in the DPC next season? They have to go through qualifiers. So, I mean, yes. I guess both teams have something to prove here. I mean, Polaris, at the very least, should probably be lower division, but judging by their performance, I'd easily say they should be upper division, considering they did just beat an upper division team in Motivate Trust. So, you know, I guess both teams have something to prove. Boom Esports maybe a little bit more so, as they've been kind of talking about it right at the start of the tournament. And the draft does continue, John. Boom Esports, they do go for the Lina pickup. Does feel like they are denying that Lina a little bit away from Polaris Esports as well. As we know, Lelouch can play a pretty mean Lina himself. But of course, Boom Esports enjoy running it on their own end of things. And surprise, surprise, Polaris Esports. We saw them run this mid DK with Lelouch earlier on. Very, very impactful DK performance from him. I don't necessarily know if this is going to be the mid DK though, because you do still have the option of the mid Snapfire. But considering you're against the Nyx now, and it's just so easy to cancel off the Kisses with the Spike Carapace, you may as well just run it as a support, just so it doesn't, you know, have to have that Kisses impact. And you can have maybe a bit of a better mid laner in the DK.
Yeah, I think the DK for Lelouch, he played this matchup in Game 1 versus Motivate Trust today, so he knows what to do against Lina. It's a very passive lane for the both sides. Lina might want to pressure more in the first 2 levels. Once you have level 2 Dragon's Blood, it's a pretty easy lane for the DK to just manage. So it can be a static farming lane for Lelouch this game. Perhaps Boom can look to leverage their supports to get some early rotations with the Ench Nyx, some good control that can come true. That might be enough to pin down the DK. That's something Polaris will have to watch out for, especially since Tim's on the Ench again tends to take that early activity for the team. Polaris do go into the Legion Commander now, so a fairly stable off-lane pick for Force, nothing too flashy. You've got a great Dispel now to kind of handle the enchant slow, to take off some of the stuns coming up from the opposing team. Once you have the shards up, that spell immunity does a ton of work as well against the Lina Ench. Nothing much to really pierce through that window of spell immunity here. Going to be very useful for Polaris to play with. And that kind of ties in very nicely with the Undying Soul Rip heal as well. So a lot of sustain coming through from Polaris. Not much team fight though. Their AoE control building up isn't quite there. Their best area denial is still Kisses and the Tombstone, but they don't have anything to kind of hammer in that Kisses. And probably boiling back to what you said, Mike. With Nyx around, you don't really want to emphasize the Kisses too hard because it's just completely countered. So they're going to have to look for a different approach there. But still a solid set of picks for Polaris. I think this does lead to that sort of early game momentum we'd like to see them play with. LC plus Snapfire as a dual lane can be pretty strong as well, but boom, straight to Razor. And those 2 heroes they just picked in Polaris do not deal with the Razor all too well. In fact, none of their heroes do. Maybe Snapfire's range so she can kind of get out. You have a Cookie to maybe widen the gap between you and the Razor, but otherwise, Razor has a lot of good targets in just static link here.
No, absolutely. It's a great Razor game. Very, very hard for the LC to try and lane against it, and of course for the DK later on, not very fun either, even in the Dragon form, of course. Polaris, though, I believe they will still have a position 1 pick to make, so they can kind of try to play around this Razor and not let it have too much impact. As hard as that can be, though, because this hero is very annoying to play against. Still, final banouts to come. Of course, we have the offlane being banned here from Polaris. They'll get rid of the Tide for now. Boom Esports getting rid of the Morphling. I suppose is a pretty good ban considering you are playing against Natsumi, who does enjoy playing the DK, rather the Morphling quite a lot. And of course, you could always morph back into the Razor and steal all your damage back anyway, so you'd rather not have the Morphling if you can avoid it. Final ban out though, Polaris, again still banning out the offlane. We'll get rid of the Beastmaster now. FBZ, he's a pretty versatile offlane though. I mean, obviously you don't have those signatures in the Mars and the Tide. Sometimes we like to talk about FBZ picking up the Timber again, though we haven't seen much of that. Though I will say for about the 50th time during this Pro Series, John, it does seem like a nice Timber game.
It really is. Like, you don't have the best stuns to cancel off his chains outside of Dragon Tail. Maybe a Cookie can land as well. But it's not like they have magical burst here in Polaris. They do have Decay to soften up the Timber Saw. And that can kind of work against it. It's a durable hero. It's going to be up front for a long time. So you can build up the K-stacks in the Undying. It's not a very quick process, though. And by the time you build big decay stacks anyway, the rest of your team might be dead. So it could be a great pickup for Boom. I think the Timbersaw pick would kind of... It wouldn't build up for more teamfight for Boom Esports, but they are looking to play really aggressive. I think when you have a Razor, you're not necessarily looking for wide AoE control. You have your win condition on the Lina, so you kind of just run and gun. Play this pick-off game early on, overwhelm, take objectives, and towards the late game, maybe your teamfight execution falls flat for the Timbersaw without that control, but your Lina is still going to be able to provide a lot of forward damage, and all the Tim needs to do is kind of cop the initial hits for the team.
Absolutely. Well, Polaris Esports, final pickup now. They still need that position 1. You could always flex the DK into the pos 1 role if you wish. Can't remember the last time Natsumi played position 1 DK though, so I imagine they are going to go down a different route. I don't think it's a great game for a pos 1 DK anyway. Anything that kind of catches your eye here, John, for Natsumi in that 1 role?
Not a lot of good options when you're having to deal with a Razor. Melee heroes are really tough. A Troll might be one way to do it, but you will need... Again, a way of just running away from the Razor and kind of prioritizing that. They go to Naga instead. An interesting pick for Polaris. So they've got a bit of a combination there. Song into Kisses or the Ensnare into Kisses could be nice. The AoE clearing from Boom isn't amazing, but it's not bad. You've got Razor with the Plasma Field. You've got Lina with Dragon Slave. So there are enough ways to shift through the illusions and take them out. But there are still some good spikes for the Naga. I think... Naga Siren hits a really big stride once you hit S and Y and Diffusal, or Manta Diffusal. It's a really big timing for Naga. And it is the Timbersaw coming out from Boom. So it does make it true, giving them more illusion clear for Boom's side. And you talked about Timbersaw not being great, Mike. It is an FBZ signature, right? Like, it is something you used to excel in, especially in the old Boom lineup.
I said it was great, John.
Yeah.
You said it. I said it wasn't great. You've got a real big head recently, Jonathan, after all the Reddit posts that have been made.
Say you said it wasn't great.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did, John.
I said it's a special effect. I said,
all right.
I mean, you said, recently it hasn't been picked. Yeah. Okay, maybe my wording wasn't quite right, but it wasn't picked recently. It does come out. FBZ special. One of his actual early signatures. I'd actually weight this above his Mars and above his Beastmaster. It's just something we know he's played for more than 2 years now. So... should have a decent lane against Naga. They do have a good way of holding down the Timbersaw now, but all you really need is like a Lotus Orb, then you can kind of just self-dispel off, be protected. They don't have the best way to still rip through the Timbersaw, even though the Diffusal might annoy the Timbersaw down the line. When he has no mana, he can't really play. He's still going to be that tanky frontliner, and again, for Boom, all their scaling is on Yopaj anyway.
All right, fair enough, John. I'm very excited to see how this Game 1 of this Best-of-5 Grand Final comes out. So... I'm not going to let you bully me in this Grand Final, Jonathan. I know you. Always trying to take the limelight away, get the Twitch chat and the Reddit on your side. People on Twitter loving johnxfire. Even when your perfect camera isn't working, they come up with these names, johnxfreeze, johnxpixel. The NFTs that were made for you, John. You're such a big star now. You can't forget about me though, John. Right? I'm still here. We're still casting together. Right? We've got to get together and take it seriously, Jonathan. Right? You've got to put your fame aside for a second. You're gonna have to cast with a peasant for a moment, John, if you don't mind.
Of course, Mike. Should be a great window. Like, I would give Boom the slight advantage for the draft. I think Yopaj, whenever he has the win condition for his team, he always delivers. I think Mushi will be able to adapt to that Razor. Lately, we've seen Mushi in farm-heavy heroes. Razor, not so much, but this will allow Mushi to play a lot faster and, again, buy space for the Lina, build up. I think the timings of Boom are just really strong, and the heroes they have are within their comfort zone here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's it, John. We'll get into game number 1. See how this one does pan out. Of course, I think most people watching would probably agree Boom Esports are looking like the big favorites in this grand final. Best of 5, though, absolutely anything can happen. Of course, you've got a bit of chemistry here between the two teams as well as Natsumi. Obviously on great terms with Yopaj and Skem and everybody else. In fact, Mushi's even getting tipped. He'll send it back to Xavius. Everyone's happy this grand final. Very good to see.
Yeah, we didn't really mention it, but this is a Rambulan. We're just not used to it because Boom used to be Indonesian.
Mavis, already getting caught out. Chat was there. Impel's going to land. They should be able to secure this. FBZ gets the chains forward, or maybe they can't. Mavis is a bit of a tanky support, but not for long. FBZ does get through him. First blood towards the timber. That's a really nice start here for FBZ.
Allows him to rush into that soul ring timing a bit quicker. And once you've got that up, it's going to be really easy to maintain your spell spam, maintain your laning presence, and ride through the lane just nice. So, great pickup for Boom. Polaris, still going to be looking to maybe snag away more bounty runes than you'd expect, playing with the Naga illusions, but that's one shortcoming of Naga versus the Enchantress. You can just enchant one illusion away, and suddenly you have information as well on Boom's side.
Yeah. Pearl again from Skem. Mushi, he's not going to bother wasting his time here. He just wants the creep wave. Could get some decent damage out on Xavius with the static link, but why bother? It's just an Undying anyway. Speaking of that Undying, though, Xavius does play the pos 4 Undying here. Now, John, you're known to be an Undying spammer. Pos 4 Undying compared to pos 5, what's the big differences here for Xavius?
You have an easier ride up to additional items. I think on the pos 5, you're kind of relegated to just a soul rip bot. On the pos 4, you've got a longer lane to play with. So it's mainly the laning that changes. You can be more aggressive. You can look to make use of your early decays a lot better. And the one issue is you can't really do much to stop the Razor. You can maybe decay him down 8 strength points, but he's still a fairly tanky target as well, has decent starting HP, and it's not like the LC has a lot of burst to play with against that until maybe level 2 overwhelming odds. I think for the first 2 levels, it's still fairly passive for the Undying. You can see Xavius doing what he does every game, pulls back the second creep wave, trying to get his EXP up to just hit his level 2 spike, and get maybe a little bit more gold going towards more regen or some move speed coming out here.
Okay, fair enough. Of course, over in the mid lane, you've got Yopaj against the Lucian. We talked about this last series, but this lane between the DK and the Lina can be quite boring. Not too much to expect here, I think, from either side. You've got a little bit of kill potential, but you are going to be expecting some rotations from the supports to make that kill happen. And I believe every time we talk about it, you generally agree that it's usually a pretty even lane between the two.
Oh, for sure, Mike. It's just a very static lane. It's a very boring lane. You just build up farm. The excitement comes from supports, and I think I'd give Boom the edge there just because they've got the Enchantress. So I think if Tims can sneak his way around, grab a nice large creep by the time he hits level 3, you can expect something to come out for the Lina, but it's still a tough target. Lelouch has the level 2 Dragon Blood, so it's just going to be smooth going for the DK in terms of clearing out the creep wave as well.
Okay. Over in the bot lane, of course, the last side lane left, FBZ and Tim's going to be against Natsumi and Mavis. Looking at this laning phase, I feel like Natsumi should be okay on the Naga. I mean, it can be a little bit annoying against the Ench, but you got pretty high armor. And FBZ, he's going to take a few levels to get up and really start to get aggressive on the Timber. Is there a point, do you think it gets a little bit more difficult for either side, John? Or are we expecting both sides to be fine here?
I think it gets better for the Timbersaw as the lane goes on, especially once you hit your level 4 spike. This is where it starts to feel better, where you can go for a 1-1-2 build. So you're really tanky with reactive. There's not much magic damage coming through from Polaris' end. And they have the little shredder to remove some of the armor, but Timbersaw is still really tanky when he gets full stacks of reactive. And once you have that point in the Whirling Death, you can melt down either the Snapfire or the Naga Siren. And for the Naga, it doesn't get easier. I mean, sure, you might get more points in Riptide, you might get more mirror image illusions, but that really plays to the benefit of the Timbersaw getting more armor up.
Lelouch, he's forced the Fairy Fire up, and that was the rotation we were talking about from Tims. But now Tims, he might be in trouble. You've got the slam from the Tomato, but he's been stunned up. He could not get it off in time as the cookie landed on the Hellbear Smasher to boot. So Lelouch is going to be able to survive, and Mavis, with a very nice rotation, is going to be able to secure a pick off onto Tims.
Yeah, it's a great kill to get. It does help Lelouch kind of build up some EXP, but Yopaj gets a wave to himself. So I think you kind of take that trade with your Boom. You're not too upset. You get a free bottle refill from Tims TPing back to mid, and that means Yopaj should hit level 5 into level 6 a little bit quicker. Once you have that Laguna up, you make that same move again, it's going to be a lot easier to kill off that DK.
Absolutely. It's up a top lane. Tombstone being dropped. I suppose just to zone them out, make sure that Force can take the creep wave without being harassed too much by this Razor. And speaking of, I don't think we've seen so much impact from Mushi yet. I mean, generally speaking, when you look at the lane against the LC, you would think that the Razor should have a pretty decent time. But I think Force has done a pretty great job of being able to remain in the lane without taking too much harass. Of course, it may go back to the fact that he can just spam overwhelming odds, but that hasn't really been the case either. They just keep pulling the creep wave away, and that seems to be doing the trick.
Yeah, it's just down to Savius again, playing that and dying as he usually plays his pause for. Pull the creep wave, get EXP, make it shove in, and make the Razor a bit worried about running into the Legion Commander. You still have that range advantage on the LC, but when you cut off the Nyx Assassin in that duo, and that means you kind of lack that control to get max value from your static link, and it's a pretty hefty spell in early levels to commit. It's a 35-second cooldown at level 2, so you can't just kind of toss it out willy-nilly, and that does lead to this much more conservative laning phase for Mushi here.
Okay. I mean, I suppose at least he is getting quite a bit of CS here on the Razor, so we kind of saw it the other day as well. The Razor not so reliant on being able to dominate lane early anymore, but can kind of snowball a little bit throughout the mid to late game now. Does feel a lot stronger once you get those items up. Every lane right now pretty even between these two teams. You do still have Tims rotating around on the Enchantress just around that mid lane to try and slow down Lelouch. But of course, Mavis is still there camping the mid lane to boot. And we're even going to have a rotation in from Xavius now. So both Mavis and Xavius going to show up in the mid lane. Xavius, not really going to do too much. He'll get a Sentry Ward down, but won't find an Observer. There's a lot of commitment into the mid lane, but nothing's really coming of it.
Yeah, I think they're setting up for the 6-minute power runes. They want to deny that away from Yopaj. He's got level 6 up, so the Laguna Burst is there. If you combine that with the pace, that can get it.
Yeah, he went for that power rune. They used it as bait, even though he knew the Undying was around. Perhaps not realizing Mavis was also here. He does get taken down, and with that Dragon Form, John Lelouch, he's going to be able to get a lot of damage onto that tier 1 mid tower. But don't forget, you've also got that Siege Creep available. So it should be some substantial damage.
A lot of damage, and you're not safe here for Tims.
No, you are certainly not. He'll heal up through it, but the Siege Creep is still alive. Lelouch will just tank the tier 1 tower as much as he needs to. Tims, he's trying his best to force them away. Lelouch now has been enchanted up in your Page. He'll rotate. Light Strike Array does connect, and you still do have the Laguna Blade with the Impale out. That'll be enough. Xavius now the one in trouble, but he should be able to get out. The Scam doesn't have another Impale for another 5 seconds. And in the end, Boom Esports, it was a bit of a struggle, but they do successfully defend that mid-tier 1 tower. It has just taken a lot of damage, though.
They can reflect that damage back to the opposing tier 1, though. No Dragon Form for the defense. Yopaj has the right-click damage just coming in with level 1 Fiery Soul. It is enough to chip away, and that kind of equalizes state of the mid-tier 1. You've also got the big creeps coming through now from our Ench. You've got the Satyr Tormentor. The additional HP regen makes it a bit tougher to shove out the waves, and makes it easier for Tims as well to clear out his own creeps with that Hadouken coming out. So they can now apply their own pressure. They free up the side lanes as well here, Mike. So Boom without the supports, Natsumi's forced to go away. FBZ is at level 7, he's got so much damage. The Nagas aren't already jungling. Whereas you compare that situation for Mushi, he's still holding lane, still taking laning creeps, getting a lot more gold. Because of that movement out, Polaris, they kind of sacrificed their side lanes there.
That they do. It's one of those things with FBZ. I mean, we talked about this yesterday in the upper bracket final, but he can be the spine for the team. You know, he's the real backbone. And you've got to be very careful not to give him too good of a game. And right now, he's having the best game on the map. Yapaj is behind him, but either way, still Jewel up top lane. They're going to find Mushi, but the Jewel is not going to last very long. Mushi, he'll survive. Cookie, though, is going to land, and they'll turn right back around. They are able to take down the Razor. It's now Scam. He'll try to go for a run. He should be just fine. But they've already got that big target they really wanted.
Yeah, they found a Razor. It does provide a little bit more breathing room here for Polaris. I think you have to worry about how much Yapaj is getting. Like, I don't think it actually matters too much how much the Razor dies, because your win conditions that lean in. Yapaj is just clearing out this massive set of stacks. They aren't able to make moves on mid because they commit so much on top. They do manage to drop that mid low, but here comes FBZ to intercept any sort of aggression now.
And that was the real strong suit of being able to defend that tier 1 mid earlier on, just a couple minutes ago. You give the time for FBZ to get those levels up, and now he can just hold the mid tier 1 indefinitely. As you see how confident he is, Mushi, he'll join in as well. They just cut them off right into the Impale of Lelouch. And it looks like the DK has no chance, but maybe he does. The Soul Rip is going to make it in time. Mushi now dropping low himself. They just keep their heals up on this Dragon Knight, but FBZ, he's back in again. Impale, not going to be on the mark. Scam, he whiffs it, and that should be it. Boom. They'll need to leave the area now. But they have bought plenty of time for the creep wave to just chip away at that mid-tier 1. And in they go again. FBZ, not quite done. It's a bit more chip damage onto Mavis. Even forces another rotation back in from Xavius, but FBZ, he gets the kill, and they got the Jewel out, but they haven't got the damage output. He might barely survive, but no. Overwhelming odds in the end will be enough. The Tims could not reach in time to get the heal off for FBZ. I suppose killing off the Timber going to be pretty darn great for Polaris.
They managed to get a very significant kill this time, because I think the Timbersaw needs that snowball start more than anyone else. So you slow down FBC's timings into the rest of his items, slowing down the Sanj and Kaya, and you still manage to hold on to your own mid-tier 1 here for Polaris' side. The issue is still the core-to-core matchup. Yapaj is still having a better time than Natsumi on her Naga. Sure, the Naga's got room now up top, has the triangle that she cleared out, but the Naga's a bit slower to progress and a bit slower to hit the power spikes. The Lena's going to hit those power spikes a lot faster. Travel's already up on Yapaj, so he's got the mobility to show up in any lane, and if he does choose to commit after the quick BKB's up, the Lena's going to be ready to rip and tear, and I don't think Polaris has enough to deal with a Travel's BKB Lena by, say, the 12-13 minute mark.
I'd say that's fair, John.
Dire's top tower is under
Paj is doing a great job of just taking the time he needs to get that BKB up. Polaris not quite getting the objectives as early as they would have liked in that mid lane, but they will find Tims down a bot, and that'll be the first bit of dual damage here for Force. In the meantime, though, Natsumi ends up dropping on the Naga, and they're gonna find Xavius. So a much bigger kill here for FBZ. In fact, make that a double. There's even a nice tombstone there for him to take. Nice and free. FBZ? Back for it, sir. He'll have a bit of a laugh. He wanted to be a show-off, John. He wanted to right-click with the chain. Oh, and now he misses the chains. Well, this is getting embarrassing, FBZ. Just leave the area, sir. Mid lane.
Yeah.
Lelouch. Well, gets stunned up. He's all by himself. They know everyone rotated to try and get FBZ, but Lelouch, no, the right clicks from Yapaj are going to be more than enough. They'll go ahead and finish off that mid-tier 1 tower.
Not going to take too long. Factor really using FBZ well. He's just cutting off any sort of defense that can come out from Polaris, holding back 3 heroes from trying to get the deny off. And boom now, 5-7, very close on the kills, but 6k network lead, Mike. The gap between Yapaj and FBZ, even Mushi up against Natsumi, Lelouch, and Force is massive. The cores of Polaris are just under-farmed, and they need that initial farm, especially Natsumi here.
Well, they're doing a great job of cutting off Tims. Tims really enjoys hanging around this area as the Enchantress, and we've seen this multiple games from him, but they continue to just throw numbers and punish him. I mean, you might make the argument, though, that Boom, they may be okay with this. Because the rest of the map is completely open for them. So everyone's rotating to try and get Tims. But you are also giving free dual damage away to Force. So you've got to ask, is it really that impactful for Boom for him to be there?
I think it still is. I don't think your LC is getting enough damage with level 1 duel anyway. Maybe if this was a level 2 duel, those kills would feel a lot more impactful, but level 1, you can kind of afford to have the Enchantress give space away like this. So still worthwhile for Boom, as they still are accelerating to those item timings, and it looks like we will get Yopaj's BKB at about the 14-minute mark, 14.5-minute mark. And once that's up and running again, Lina's just going to be ready to go. Mushi, his Yules will line up right at that moment as well. So it's going to be really easy to get the setup for the LSA, the setup for multiple stuns coming out, get a longer duration static blink on the Razor, and of course more move speed. With phase boots and Yules up, you should be able to hit near max move speed on the Razor with a phase boot active there and just chase anyone down.
Top lane, he's been caught out by Skem. Yopaj will be there with the follow-up damage, and Lelouch. Oh, he thought he maybe could have survived with the stick charges, but doesn't quite. In the meantime, though, Tims, well, this time he'll be fine. Mushi, he'll join in, but the Tombstone has been dropped. They'd love to find themselves a Razor pick-off, but they won't be able to snag it. Not 100% confident in their ability to take down this Razor. Even Natsumi down at the bot lane, he's going to be forced to TP out of that area, realizing Mushi could just bully him once he does make his way over. However, top side, Skem, very confident with that position, but he has a haste room. They can't really hold him down, and now FBC's going to join in, take some illusions away. Cookie, though, he's going to land. FBC, he'll get ensnared up. They have the follow-up stun. He's still a very tanky boy. Chains out. Do they have the follow-up damage? They'll commit the song. Jewel is there from Force. He might just commit it straight off the bat, and they'll finish FBC off. It's a 5-man rotation again from the side of Polaris, but they do at least get the kill onto FBZ.
And that's a much bigger kill for Polaris now, punishing that aggression from Boom. Maybe expecting a bit too much from the durability of the Timbersaw early on. With just the Kaiju Sange, it's not as big as, say, an early Vanguard for physical damage protection or the Hood of Defiance for magic protection. It's mainly just the stat resist and forward presence for fight, so you're not actually able to put your body all that much forward compared to those other item builds. But it is still paying off for Boom. Despite these kills, Mike, Boom still has an 8k lead. So even if these solo pickoffs are coming out, it's not enough for Polaris to regain a net worth parity here. Boom is still working the map a lot better despite losing some cores, and you are still going to hit that exploding point for the Lina. It does have the BKB up. It's off to the Silver Edge next for Yopaj.
What they got there mid? FBC's right back into that triangle now. They want to try and force another fight as Yopaj trying to go on to Xavius, but doesn't have anything to set up like the Yule Scepter. Won't matter though, they still control the map. It's very aggressive here for Boom as they're 9k ahead in terms of net worth. Did you look back at Natsumi, John? In terms of farm, this is a Naga Siren and he's still behind the Mushi Razor. It kind of goes back to how many numbers they have to bring to just kill off Tims over and over again. But it has really affected Natsumi's farming.
He doesn't have too many safe areas to farm. The constant aggression from Boom in the triangle forces Natsumi to play in the bot jungle, which is nice. It's still a wide area, but there's some good vision. Here's always the threat of rotations. It's fairly dark for Polaris in the bot jungle as well. So Natsumi's always going to have to play slightly conservative, and the build-up is going to take a while for Naga. The breaking point for Naga tends to be the Fusel and Manta. In this case, Natsumi rushes the Manta first. You might even just skip out the Diffusal at this point. We tend to see tanky Naga Siren builds also work. Say a fast Scotty, a Heart coming down early on could also help the cause. That could be one way Natsumi itemizes, but it'll take a long time. And there's still a bit of a damage issue going that sort of build without the Diffusal. I think you're going to be hard-pressed to kill off the Timbersaw fast enough to take care of the Lina as well. I think that's the big back and forth. Like, FBC might die, and he has died a couple of times, but can you actually kill him fast enough that you can grab the Lina right after before she casts her spells? Likely not.
I believe you are correct, John. They can't really even kill the Enchanted Creep right now. They tried, proving to be a little bit too tanky. And Tims, I mean, again, he has been very annoying on this Enchantress, just keeping all the lanes pushed in. One of the strengths of having the max enchant is the amount of bonus damage your creep does get. The fact that you can just send it into a lane to farm for you. Polaris now feeling like they have to be ready to defend that bot tier 2 tower. We'll jump in, FBZ, he's going to get dueled immediately. They might have the damage this time without all the bonus armor, and they will. In fact, Lelouch, he's trying to jump onto Yopaj. BKB was there in time, however. Lelouch, he's just trying to back for now. Song was committed to boot. Yopaj, the BKB finally wears off, but Lelouch is so darn low, he will drop to Mushi, but they surround the Lina. It's a much bigger kill for Polaris. Boom Esports, they lose 2 big calls and they'll have to leave.
That was a bit of an overextension coming out from Yopaj, almost. Like, I think he overestimated his damage output. The DK is still really tanky, right? Like, with a BKB you can last long, but you didn't have a follow-up. They didn't have the Nyx around to cancel off the kisses as well. It's still Natsumi.
Natsumi's trying to be a little bit cheeky here. Tims, he realizes which one the real one is, now does find it. Nushi, he'll join in. Scam, they've got the Impel with the right click as well. They do lose Tims, but if you get Natsumi, it'll be well worth it. Still Natsumi's not dead yet. Jules out as well. They've got Scam down. Mushi, he's still going to try after Natsumi, but the man is still running. He might be able to make it out. Mushi, don't lose the fog, sir. Oh, he's run to the right. The plasma field, it's not going to reach, but FBZ, he knows where he is. Oh, so close for Natsumi, but so far. 8k net worth advantage does remain for Boom, and in the meantime, up at top lane, Xavius does end up dropping to Yopaj.
Yeah, it's a bit of a bounce back in for Boom. They lost that last fight pretty hard. It took them longer to find Natsumi as well. It does pay off. And now you're hitting this spike for Yopaj. Shadow Blade up, Silver Edge not too far off. And that's the DPS spike we're looking for beyond the survivability the BKB has. And with that break, that Dragon Knight's not going to feel very tanky anymore. So you have to watch yourself here, I think, for Polaris. They need to kind of keep that aggression we saw last time. They need to play around their kisses timing and maybe isolate Scam. If they know Scam somewhere else, they can certainly use all of your spots to find those kills.
They're going to find Mavis, just trying to get a D-ward off on the Snapfire. FBZ will chase him down. I believe Lelouch has also been caught out up at top lane. Does get a nice stun off onto Yopaj, but oh, it may not matter. Dragon Slave is going to land, but they have the Soul Rip. The Soul Rip will be enough to barely allow Lelouch to get himself out. So even FBZ was still trying to cut him off. Just didn't quite make it in time. I suppose they at least found the Snapfire though, so FBZ, he was a little bit preoccupied at the time. Like, never mind the kills anyway. They'll go straight after Roshan.
It's not going to be the quickest Roshan in the world. The damage output of Yopaj without the crit stick isn't that high, but it will still fall. Polaris have to force the fight there. They've got the kisses ready. They've got the song ready. They can look for a big opportunity here.
They can, but the rotations are coming in. The Jewel immediately out onto Scam. That'll be one. Down already, but they move forward anyway. They still want to try and force the fight. BKBs are up, so the Song is doing nothing right now. It's Natsumi. He's still trying to just run away from Mushi, but the Song, it just wears off. The BKB was too long of a duration. It's now Lelouch. He'll be jumped by FBZ, gets shredded by the whirling axes. This Force is still trying to run away as well, but probably won't make it. Mushi is right there to get the job done, and they'll find another. In fact, Xavius, he is the last piece of the puzzle. He'll run towards the north though, but Scan is out. They did find him for a second. Xavius, he'll be fine. The TP is enough. But it's a 4-for-nothing trade. In fact, I say nothing, John. Scam did end up dropping on the Nyx, but it may as well have been nothing.
Yeah, I don't think they get too much from killing off Scam. He broke that smoke rotation. He forced them to use a lot of their initial control onto a support. And Boom just manages to clean up afterwards. Great use of the early BKBs here from Boom. Mushi with the fast fingers right on the Song cast. So his BKB lasted way longer than Song. He got 176 damage stolen from that duration, and Natsumi just couldn't do anything. Like, the Nagasaran is just not set to fight yet. 10k net worth, 1k behind a Razor doesn't sound bad, but you kind of want to be 4k above everyone else. You kind of want to leverage your illusions to farm. Hit that Scotty timing, hit the heart timing, and rip through heroes. We're not at that point yet for the Nagasaran, so a bit of a slower start for Polaris as Yopaj, he's got that Silver Edge up. He's looking to play.
And you've got no Song on Natsumi, so he doesn't... Oh, never mind, they've got the Jewel. They'll reinitiate back onto the Lina. They'll get the Aegis down. Still Scam, he's going to cut them off. Big Impale out, not quite. He'll get one, but it's just the illusions. They'll have to try and settle for force, but he's also running away as Lelouch now. He's in the middle of everybody. He will drop as a second. They've also jumped in onto Mavis, so they might have another kill onto the Snapfire, and they will. So you got the Aegis off your Page, but you end up losing 3 heroes. And the net worth gap, it just continues to increase for Boom Esports.
It really does. 12 to 19, but a 16k lead for Boom. Despite all the kills, despite all the activity, the right cores are still finding farm for Boom. And Mushi's not resting. Look at this. He's just chasing Natsumi, preventing the Naga from getting even any small relief from his own triangle. He just can't go up there to farm.
It's off the back of FBZ Timber though, right? Like, this is something that FBZ, he's known for. He'll just chase you across the map on this hero. Just never leave you alone. And Mushi just kind of replicating the same thing on that POS 1 Razor. And it's all really going well and truly according to plan. Natsumi, he's just been stuck at 10.5k net worth. Again, on a Naga Siren. It is a very, very bad feeling. And the only kills they've really been able to find is generally Tim's on the edge. In the same area. But that's kind of works against them anyway. Because again, they've had to rotate 5 heroes at a time to just find Tim's.
It's just way too much commitment for that pause 5 Nyx, and he still manages to get the info out. That's what you really want from your Nyx assassin anyway. Information finding. And even if he dies, that's information you can use. Side of Boom, I mean, it's just a steady build-up from here on out. Like, you're going to see the Ags rush from Mushi, so the high ground push starts to accelerate. After that, probably the refresh for Mushi. Double static link, double Eye of the Storm. Easy towers to melt once you do manage to get into the high ground. And that's something Polaris has to be worried about because they don't really have counterplay for it. And you see Yopaj as well, trying to protect himself from the Lincolns. So they just want to prevent the duel. I think that's where Polaris has been finding most of their success. Force, finding the angles to isolate a hero, get a good duel off. That's how they tend to win. The Lincolns, the mass Lincolns from Boom, because they already have one on FBZ, is going to make that a bit tougher. Still, you stall out long enough here, Mike, to give Natsumi his Scotty. He also managed to shove in the top lane to give a bit more farming room for that Naga Siren. The Scotty does give a lot of good stats, a good slow, and good healing reduction. I don't think it's enough to really put a dent in Boom's momentum yet. You're gonna need a little bit more in that Naga here.
Certainly do. Top lane, it was being forced in here, but FBZ is going to rotate, make sure it does remain defended. Not too much they can really do about it on the side of Polaris right now. Meanwhile, Scam mid lane just camping with the Vendetta. No sentry to really scout him out. He may run into one now if he's not too careful, but no, there's none here either. Just take back the outpost on Polaris while they can. But you know what that means. It probably means that Boom Esports is going to start running at them again. And as you can see, FBC and the rest of the crew, they're going to make their way over right into Natsumi and Xavius, who does already drop. In this song, you've just got to disengage. You can't fight right now. Just no chance of winning. Tim's, though, he's still going to get a nice enchant off on Lelouch, but it is purged. They do at least manage to get everyone else out as FBC. Always chaining in the base as if there's a tree there, but I think FBZ is just playing mind games now.
Yeah, just threatening, posturing around for the team. They have cleared out mid tier 2, so once they get the push going on the high ground here, they can transition to the mid, take 2 racks out. Mushi having the full Ags. Look at these towers. It's not going to last long.
Certainly not. Very, very fast process here with Boom. Keep in mind, it's only Mushi hitting the racks right now. Your Page not required to really do anything. So they do make the jump in, and now they do. With the Blade Mail out, they'll try to blow up the Razor, but the nice impale out from Skem gonna put an end to it all. Natsumi, he'll keep trying to chase down the Razor, but he is looking in dire straits as they chain forward. They'll get another kill. Mushi does end up going down, but what does it matter? They'll go right after Lelouch. Another great impale from Skem, right onto 2 heroes. It may be time to call it, John. They call it, they've had enough. 25k net worth advantage. Boom Esports just completely demolish Polaris Esports in game number 1.
That is just ridiculous. Boom, they managed to bring back that win condition for Yopaj. They give Mushi a more sort of lane dominant hero, but definitely a tempo based core, in contrast to what we've seen from the past few days from Boom, where he was playing stuff like the Medusa. He was playing very farm heavy heroes. He still excels when he has to play faster, and for Polaris, they tried something different. They first phase the snap, maybe looking to flex it, but give up in the flex by the second phase, just go into the DK. And I think they lost a lot of drafting impact because of that. They show Snapfire, immediate Nyx pickup from the side of Boom, just made it impossible to flex it anymore. And from the support position, it's still strong, but you lose out in your team fight because Kisses is such a big part of your damage output as a snap. The Nyx Assassin just counteracted it. And I think for Polaris, they relied way too much on Kisses. They didn't have any other source of team fight. You could argue Song, but it's not. There's no follow-up for the Song outside of Kisses anyway. So I think Polaris will have to look back at their draft, get ready for these big engagements Boom loves to pump out. And they have to watch for FBZ's hero, because Nat Timbersaw went all the way till the end. They ban out the Beastmaster over the Timb when they pick a Naga. Just kind of lined up to be a really strong game for FBZ with so many strength heroes on Polaris' side as well.
I mean, you can't ban every FBZ hero. I think that's part and parcel of the problem here in these drafts against Boom Esports. Still, we'll head over to a quick 10-minute break, and right after that break, we'll be back with Game 2 of this Best of 5 Grand Final between Polaris Esports and, of course, Boom Esports. We'll see you soon.